Good morning.
Hi. Good morning.
Good morning.
All right, well, welcome to our business meeting associated with the ICMT. Right now we have the 7 of us. So I think because we are a smaller group, we'll just give everybody a minute just to kind of say who they are in case we have some new people on the line. So I'm Brian Dagenhart. I'm the director of the AT Steel Research Institute, kind of the sponsor at this moment of the ICMT and the ICMT conference, and we're located in Kirksville, Missouri. Barbara.
Hi, well, I'm Barbara Bellanova. I'm the executive director of the Fascia Research Society, and I was so pleased that G sent me an invite to this meeting. I'm very excited to be here. Thank you so much. Looking forward to what we discussed today.
Great, thank you, Barbara. And Sandy.
I'm Sandy Fritz, been a massage therapist for a long time. Really support the vision of the ICMT and hope that we can find some great collaboration today.
Kirsten.
Hi, I'm Kirsten Verleger. I'm from Germany, Dortmund, Germany. I'm a structural integrator and I'm on the board of the European Rolling. I was at the conference, but I think otherwise I'm new.
Okay, great. Welcome. Nice to meet you. Kathy.
I think you're muted.
Sorry, did that work?
Yes, it did.
So I'm a family doctor and I was just conventionally trained and late to understand the whole body differently. So I've been working in fascia now for about 7 years, finding out new things. So it kind of turns everything upside down when you're trained, when you train that way. And then, so now I don't have any of the other background, like all the terms and that kind of thing. And so when I submitted my abstracts for the Fascia Research Conference, which I got 2 research abstracts accepted, I had to call a DO friend and say, could you tell me what I should say? Like what term is right for this or that? So it was really helpful to go to this the consortium meeting and start to learn like the vocabulary, all that, because I have no formal training. I just do what makes biomechanical sense. And so, so anyway, I'm here to just learn more about how more about that, because that's to backfill what I'm finding, so that's why I'm here. So great that you're having this meeting.
Well, thank you, Kathy. And where are you?
Oh, I'm in Southern California in Camarillo. It's an hour north of LA.
Well, thank you for getting up so early as well. That's awesome. Appreciate it. Okay, Linda Smith.
Hello from St. Louis, Missouri. And I'm a chiropractor and an acupuncturist. And I've been part of the ICMT since its founding. And it's so fun to be together with different professionals. And I just am excited to see what comes next.
Thank you, Linda. Now we have somebody here that just says iPad. If you just want to introduce yourself.
That would be me. I'm Brenda Marunich. I'm sorry, it's a new iPad, so I haven't set everything up. I'm in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. I'm the owner of Pittsburgh Massage Therapy and Wellness. And I'm really excited what's coming out of the ICMT group here and looking forward to moving the things forward.
That's awesome. Welcome.
Thank you.
And you're going to have to say your name one more time, because otherwise I'm just going to refer to you as iPad. So,
I will go in and change it, but it's Brenda Marunich.
all right. Thank you, Brenda, so much. Okay. Lisa.
Hi, I'm Alyssa. I'm from Sweden, and it's nice to see some friendly faces here. But the first time that I met everybody was at the ICMT conference, and I am extremely glad that this discussion is happening. So it's just fun to be here. Thank you.
It's good to see you again. Thank you for joining us this morning. Patrick.
Yeah, Patrick van Dun from Belgium, and I also practice in Germany as well. I'm an osteopath, and I was here from the beginning, from with ICMT, and ready to work some more. Thank you.
We're glad to have you. Good to see you. Amy.
Hi, would that be me? I'm
Yes,
sorry,
it is.
I joined late. Thank you.
Dr. Dean.
Thank you. No worries. Yes, please, Amy. I'm a osteopathic physician in Western Michigan on the Lakeshore, and I'm core faculty for the OMM residency here. And I also am interested in osteopathic research that is related to both musculoskeletal and non-musculoskeletal uses.
Thank you.
Thanks.
And Jessica.
Jessica Korick. I'm Dr. Degenhardt's assistant with the A.T. Still Research Institute in Kirksville, Missouri. So I've kind of been a part of this for several years now. So I'm glad to be involved and glad to have you all here.
Thank you, Jessica. And certainly not last nor least, G.
I'm G. Franklin, data manager for the AT Still Research Institute, applied data scientist evaluating methods for delivering scientific content to the general public and creating partnerships for diverse viewpoints in the scientific community to ensure equitable access to data.
Okay, thanks, G. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. And it's been nice to gather a few more people joining in here. So, and as you can see, we have multiple professions represented. We're at different places around the world, different time zones, which is part of what ICMT has been all about since its origins, functionally about 3 years ago, as far as an active group of people in preparation for our inaugural meeting. And certainly I can say my personal reflections about the inaugural meeting is it was certainly was beyond what I could have ever expected. The outcomes, the content I thought was amazing. The collaboration was just enchanting and just mind opening in regards to people's perspectives and that those things that we are unique and those things that we are actually very similar about. They may have had no idea that that was the case. We had a survey and we had nearly, I think, 50 people return the survey. And I would say we got very, very good comments back, very constructive comments. And I would say that in general, the conference under the circumstances and the circumstances, I will put this way, despite that we were working 3 years in its making, 4 months before it actually occurred, we still had no idea exactly how it was all going to come together because we were shifting platforms. We were still adjusting the schedule to try to optimize engagement and involvement. And so under the very unusual circumstances, certainly the purpose and vision of ICMT was stood as a unique contribution. We had people from NIH all the way up to the chair or the center director for complementary and integrative health, who participated, Helene Langevin, who was just so really excited about her experience and how well things went and the platform and so forth. So we are leaving that conference with a very strong sense of accomplishment and a sense of a place. Now, the question is where do we go from here? And for those that have not had a chance to go to the website, it has been shifted from a website directed towards a conference to a website that is now directed towards the building of an organization. And I only have, I think, 4 slides, but I would like to just share them in order to just make sure that I'm covering the details well. So you can see our logo. Is that being submitted? Okay, very good. Okay, so the ICMT, so it is an organization that's primarily led by practitioners. This isn't, although we have strong university support through A.T. Still University, it is not in no means, controlling and leading this. This is something that is really a grassroots effort to engage both everyday practitioners and as well as researchers that are doing work within the field related to manual therapies, to establish an environment for collaboration and an open-minded, supportive, progressive, and respectful multi-professional environment to discuss ways to advance the practice and science of manual therapies. Now, this has been our mission from the beginning, and as I reflected on it, so clearly we were able to create that multi-professional environment. That's what we are wanting to continue, with the goal of discussing ways to advance the practice and science of manual therapies. And I would say that is a little simplified from what really ICMT does. We're not here just to discuss things. We're here actually to engage, to be active participants, to find ways to advance the practice and science of manual therapies, not just purely to discuss them. And so I think that's one thing that we're going to we'll discuss more today about how do we, what is it that we really want to deliver? What is it that we're actually able to deliver in regards to the resources we have available? And we recognize to the core of who we are in ICMT, the value of different cultures, disciplines within the manual therapy world and the perspectives that they bring. We do that not for the goal of, kind of homogenizing the world of manual therapies, but to be able to have an understanding of similarities and differences to facilitate the development of our own styles of care. And so our vision is to advance the broad field of manual therapy and the quality of patient care provided by its practitioners. And by doing that, we believe that this will hasten through accurate understanding and communication about what we do, what we teach, the research that we perform, to be able to, and the outcomes that are coming from those research to advance our manual therapy professions and disciplines. So I'd like to just give an opportunity for anyone to ask questions or clarifications or further expound upon who we are and what our overall purpose is before we start going into how are we going to get there.
Well, I always have to say something. I have had multiple conversations with people that I shared this business meeting with that from all over the United States and a couple from Europe that are happy to have a platform for discussion, a platform for sharing, a platform for collaboration and interaction. One of the things I said as a massage therapist, been involved for many, many years, and in the educational role because of a textbook author, but also located kind of in a semi-rural area in Michigan, I have a broad perspective of how similar yet separated we all are. And I said to one of the people I talked to yesterday, actually from the UK, I believe that ICMT is our best chance, given the platform of professional organizations and the busyness of people and the inability sometimes to even gather together, whether it's because of distance or whatever. I believe that we have the opportunity to do something so unique, unencumbered by all the politics, all the past differences, past confusion that we've had. And so, I'm really pulling for us here because there's nobody else like us out there. We're truly unique with all of that. And one of the things we're going to have to do is figure out what we offer uniquely. And that's what we're here today for. So I'm excited. I'm excited for our future from my perspective.
Thank you, Sandy. Okay,
Barbara has her hand up.
Yeah.
I just figured out how to put my hand up in a Zoom meeting. So I was so proud of myself. Usually I do jazz hands. I have some questions about what you want to do organizationally, like how do you want the structure? So are you going to establish a board of directors? You're talking about membership, which is great. You talked in the agenda about bylaws, that sort of thing. Like, do you have an idea or a sense of how you want to organize that? I kind of gave a really brief introduction. My background is in 25 years of doing nonprofit consulting and that sort of thing. I also was a manual therapist myself for a number of years. And so I kind of have that skill set. So I'm curious and happy to help with that.
Excellent. Well, we will use that as our springboard to move ahead here, for sure. So today and this year's opportunity, because I really see that this year is where we really, see what does this, what is this opportunity really, how do we really engage it? How far do we actually have resources to develop it? And our goal is certainly that we have developed a sustainable organization, but it's only sustainable based off of what we're able to do. So so here is kind of a layout that G and Jessica and I this past week kind of went through to try to give us an idea of where we might be heading as an organization. And so whether board of directors, I like the term, or executive committee, we are looking at a committee that would have representatives of the major professions that are involved in the ICMT, and they would be involved in this upcoming year in looking at developing a charter and bylaws and other the legal requirements for establishing a organization. And then underneath that, we have kind of, at this moment, we've identified 4 different kind of areas of work that we feel is necessary. One would be a membership committee where we look at who's eligible, what are the benefits for it, what type of dues would be needed to help sustain the organization, how long do the dues last, and to engage institutional sponsors. And I can say from my perspective, this is a very important piece, and how we would utilize those institutional sponsors is also important. As we look at some of our vision in regards to upcoming conferences, getting more institutions engaged in ICMT is going to allow us to open up the in-person, hands-on related conferencing that really nobody's been able to do in the past. And I have certainly an outline of how that would occur. So that would be the membership committee. Then we have an education committee, educational programming committee, where they would be involved in the development of conferences and webinars. Right now, our hope is that our second conference entitled The Psychosocial Influences of Manual Therapies, that would occur at the end of 2023, beginning of 2024. Between now and then, we would like to put on a webinar probably in the winter to early spring of 2023, and then have a follow-up for then our third ICMT conference, which would be a very engaging conference from practitioners who use their hands. Then we have a section where we have specific task forces. And so the task forces, this is, what we had done in the development for the conference. We had one task force, or what we called working groups, that dealt with one topic area for the conference and another one for another topic area. So from those areas that we did, we began the development of an integrated glossary. And that is an area that we did tremendous amount of groundwork for, but it's one that is going to require definitely continued work, so that we are better communicating and understanding what we do, not only within the field, but across the global scientific and healthcare fields as well. From the very beginning of ICMT, the development of white papers and articles from the work we do. And so right now we have four that have been identified that to try to get done before the end of this calendar year. One that would be looking at the scope of manual therapies. And for those that were part of the conference, this involved a very extensive mind map that we had put together, looking at both the types of techniques, but also the underlying theoretical mechanisms that the profession uses to explain the types of techniques that they do. We also have one that looking at the glossary as we currently have it, because this is a clear advancement from what has been done, and what we've been able to do thus far is worthy of dissemination. We have another area looking at the neurophysiological mechanisms of manual therapies. We have a lead author working on that already. And then lessons learned from our first conference. It was and still is a unique framework in response to a difficult time within a pandemic, and it deserves to be placed in the sustained literature to acknowledge what was done and what were the lessons learned from that. Then lastly, we have a communications committee looking at how do we keep members engaged, how we continue to expand the influence of the work we're doing through websites and other social media. So right now that's the structure Barbara, that we've been talking about, and I'd like to open this up for further discussion.
I have a question, Brian.
Okay, Kathy,
Um,
Linda.
So I'm very interested in the part over here with the tasks. Whoops. And I'm wondering, are you imagining that, like, if we were going to do, let's say I was working on scope of manual therapy or neurophysiologic mechanisms, that I would be part of a team that would have somebody from each of the professions working on that with me, like we'd work together? Or how do you envision that?
In general, all of these different committees, subcommittees, task force, we would identify some leader for a small working group. That working group, as much as possible, would have representation from the different professions that are part of the ICMT. So there will be times where I suspect that people will be needing to work a little bit more independently. But I think at this point in time, our goal is to keep things as collaborative as possible, as long as the scope of work is appropriate for that type of model.
And then I have a second follow-up question. Can I ask that?
Okay, and then we'll move on to Brenda after that.
Just that Dr. Reed, when we were in the last meeting, Dr. Reed was saying you should hurry up and write some stuff because there were other things coming down the pike. Do you remember when he said that?
Yes.
I was wondering if you could, I didn't understand what he meant.
Okay, so when we talk about the white papers and articles representing the work that we did in preparation for the ICMT conference, I have had a chance to talk to Dr. Reed several times since the meeting, and those are papers that we are wanting to put together before the end of the year. There are a special interest journal, a journal that has set aside a specific one of their monthly journals for the purpose of focusing on manual therapies, on focusing on the work that are related to ICMT related topics. It is going to be under the direct kind of influence of NIH. NIH has just funded multiple centers to promote research activities in its field. And so in order to keep timely with what's happening from an NIH perspective, he has recommended that we need to move on this and get these things done before the end of the year. Okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome. And I think G told me, I'm sorry, Brenda, Barbara, I think you were on, had your hand up first. So go ahead, Barbara, and then we'll be to you, Brenda.
Am I unmuted? Yeah, okay. I just wanted to ask another question about, are you planning to become a nonprofit? And here's the reason for my question is because it sounds like you're going to be getting income in. And I would highly recommend forming a nonprofit if you're going to do that, because otherwise you're going to have tax liability that you don't want to have. I can see this organization growing to be a very huge organization, and at some point you're going to need to do that. It would be a very simple application. The minimum amount of money you need to take in a year is $50,000. But once you do that $50,000 application, you're good to go. And then you can build on it from there. To start a nonprofit, you need to have 3 people who are considered board of directors. They can be called executive committee if you wish, but you need to have 3 people who are a fiduciary and responsible for the organization's functions that way. And so I would highly recommend that, just because if you're planning on growing like it sounds like you are, it would be a good move to do that now rather than later.
Thank you for your advice, Barbara. Next, Brenda.
You're muted.
Right. Yes,
There you
one of the questions I had was coming off of what Barbara said, is this going to be a nonprofit? And then the other thing, going with membership committee and eligibility, benefits, et cetera, is this, or this appears to be at this moment, a lot of research-based information coming out. So if we're looking at eligibility, are we looking strictly at researchers in each respective area? Or are you looking for, you know, general members that would be interested in what the findings would be, if that makes sense?
Yeah, absolutely, Brenda. I can say without a doubt from the very beginning, from our mission, our goal is to engage practitioners. Okay, that has been an issue with any other organization, especially ones that also want to promote science, that the science overwhelms the practitioner base, and has always had difficulties in engaging and sustaining involvement of that practitioner base. And this is what's unique about ICMT, is as a grassroots organization that we want to keep connected on those that are providing this actual services and the actual care, because that's really all. When science makes a difference is when that is influencing the work that's being done. So without a doubt, we are a practitioner organization that we want to continue to grow that, and to be able to use language within the work that we do that's relevant to the clinicians, to the practitioners, that's understandable, that can translate what's happening in the scientific world into clinical practice, because that is so often is not done very well. Okay, Kirsten.
I just want to ask, what do I have to do if I would like to work in one of those task forces? Are you sending out something and I have to respond, or do I write you? Or
Yeah, excellent question, and that's exactly where we're heading. So the question is, first of all, as I look at these various groups and so forth, I'm thinking, what number of people do we need to actually make that work? And so I'm thinking, 4 or 5 people as a good kind of starting point. And if we do have that, then we're looking at potentially, needing about 30 people that are actively engaged in ICMT to make this scope of an organization to begin functioning and then to start building. So what does it mean in my mind in regards to being active? And I thought about that. And, ICMT, in preparation for the conference, we were meeting every other week for, a long time. And that I can say it's just not expected nor sustainable in this type of environment. So that's part of what, we have to determine what is going to be, sustainable for this. And so I thought, well, would it be, a monthly meeting or an every other month meeting? Every month, especially with certain things, I think in regards to task forces, that to keep things moving, that seemed reasonable. Membership committee, conference, webinar planning, that might be a little bit more flexible, because you can do a lot of work in a meeting, and then it just needs a little time to kind of be implemented, or wait until the calendar is necessary for marketing or whatever that might be. Website and social media, I mean, we all know that is a important part of just existence in modern times, and that committee is definitely going to need to get up and running quickly. We have a good starting point on the website. Is it ideal? Can we make it more whatever? And I can say that is not my thing. I don't have that skill set. So Jeff G will be, helping to lead that. So once again, those are my thoughts. So what do you think on that? Does that sound doable? Okay, I see a few nodding heads and okay, Kirsten, go ahead, and then we'll have Brenda next.
Well, I think if we want to have get something done until the end of the year, probably once a month is the least we should do. But my question was also not only what do I have to do once I'm in the group, but also to get into the group. So if you're, if we have to write you what we're interested in, or are you going to send a mail and ask?
Hey, G, do you want to address that?
Sure thing. So right now we're kind of doing it simple and fast. And so send me an email, send Brian an email, send Jessica an email, and we'll pull those together and try to get all the people that are interested in a specific group or committee or task force together so they can then form their own meetings and advance their progress. So I'll drop my email in the chat here in just a moment.
Okay, so for using this layout, certainly if you can identify where your skills and interests lie, and then let G know by email, then we will begin to facilitate and build those particular groups. Those that are interested in helping with the papers, there's no question we're going to have to move much more quickly with them. And for those that are interested, as soon as I get your information, I will be getting a hold of you in a very near future to try to give assignments and kind of timelines associated with getting that work done. Okay, any other questions about that?
I just wanted to know, I missed first few minutes. Is there money set up to start this from any organizations yet, or what?
Excellent question. And I can say that there essentially is not. Okay, that's where we are really at that basic area. We have some support through the HE Still Research Institute. That is through personnel as well as some limited funds, but that's part of talking about membership committee, talking about getting some institutional sponsors. Those are important features. I do believe that for us to be successful, we do need to become a nonprofit. And that is something that I would look at using resources available to me through the university to help to make that happen. But beyond that, right now we have primarily good intentions with empty pockets.
So I was involved in setting up a Washington State Massage Association about 6 or 7 years ago. And all of the people involved we decided we're going to put in $500, or I can't remember what it was, to have a fund to start with, because the website cost money. No, I mean, nobody took a salary or anything, but all these things cost money to put together, some of these things. So.
Now, how many people ended up participating?
There was probably about 8 or 10 people.
I see. At
the start. We met for 2 years, once a month in person. This was before Zoom even. And it took forever to set up things, but we did exactly what you're talking about though. An executive committee was formed, and one person knew about how to file all the papers for nonprofits. I helped with the website. The other people did, what they knew best. So, and then it just really came together, but and
It's really, 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 really tough to get members.
Well, thank you for both that hopeful and the reality check from your experience.
Yeah.
Yeah, Kathy.
Oh, I had a clarification question. I wanted to just understand under the task forces was that integrated glossary all goes together? Was it integrated glossary, white papers, articles, or because under there it was the dot was glossary of terms, or was that like, so I wasn't sure. Can you just clarify what that
Yeah,
was?
absolutely. Thank you for bringing that up. So they are distinct things. One is reporting what we created in the glossary that was presented at the conference.
Mhm.
But at the conference, and anyone working on it knows that there are a lot of specific terms that need reconciling, that really needs, to be worked on and to establish, kind of ideal interprofessional terms. And so having a group that's willing to get into the weeds of the words and another group that's willing to just report what has been done up to the May meeting. Those are the two parts with that, okay?
Mhm.
Okay, Brenda.
I think it will be helpful to identify extra skill sets that those that are already like ourselves here on this call and those that were on the initial conference, the additional skill sets that we might have already in regards to contacts for institutional sponsors, maybe like Julie explained, and I too myself had experience in regards to, growing a membership, building a membership, or Sandy, I know you're great with educational things. So, recognizing these extra skill sets that we might have as individuals to better hone each of these different committees. I know myself from an eligibility standpoint, I like the fact that this is for, I will say, everyone that has manual therapies and isn't just necessarily into an institutional setting, that it is for an actual practitioner. I think, in my opinion, that having some sort of requirement to actually participate in, whether it be the conference or certain meetings throughout the year, be an actual requirement so that you don't just have people that, hear things secondhand or come and go and can actually bring something back to the table from what they are experiencing in their practices. And I too agree with Julie, if those that are really committed, like we all seem to be, to donating some sort of amount of money to form the nonprofit, I think that's an excellent idea.
Yeah, these are great ideas. These are things that I would have never been able to certainly pull out of thin air from my background, my personal experience. And so definitely, Brenda, Julie, Barbara, I got some ideas just from your comments as to where you belong in this scheme of things.
Okay, sign me up.
So nobody else get concerned about that, that they're going to get strong armed into any particular area. That this is just, once again, we will be waiting for emails from you for your, actual commitment to help out in whatever area. Okay, Chris, welcome.
Thank you. Can you hear me?
Yes, can hear you fine. Please introduce yourself, your background, and then give us your question or comment.
Sure. My name is Chris Frederick. My background is physical therapist since 1989. And I'm an author of a couple books. And I was just thinking of some low-cost ways of getting the word out to drum up interest, which can eventually drive some dollars in. So one thing I was thinking of is authors that are writing on popular topics in manual therapy of any kind, and a gathering of those. For instance, I think David Lasontek is part of the ICMT founding members. So he's an author, obviously, I'm an author, there's other authors, and we can gather them to share in a, let's say, an ICMT podcast, where we invite some authors in to speak on some hot topics. For me, I can talk about stretching. It's a real hot topic. It's a $22 billion a year industry unto itself. So, just to inform members and others interested in that and start talking about things, when do you stretch, when do you not stretch, et cetera, et cetera. Just pick things that people are interested in, the broad aspects of manual therapy in general. I think people would start to come in and want to join the podcast eventually. And I think that's a way, you have to start the podcast, but I think it's low dollar investment to even start a podcast to do that. Even I won't speak on behalf of David, but David might even start it, let's say, for instance, on his podcast. He already has an established, pretty good podcast. It's popular, and that would be kind of fun to do, actually. And then we can think of how to drive that towards little drives of starting little mini drives on the actual podcast. ICMT could be a sponsor of this podcast kind of thing, and start talking about ICMT in between the topics that we discussed, for instance.
Yes, thank you, Chris. Great idea. Sandy.
That what Chris was saying goes along with where my passion lies, is in education, collaboration, discussion platform, mentoring, those things that the practitioner is hungry for in an interdisciplinary way. I'm pretty sure David would be more than happy to be a launch pad for all of this. But this is an important thing that we can also offer. This is value offered, is the ability to, there is no place that a massage therapist can talk to a PT, that can talk to a DO, that can run it by a chiropractor. It doesn't exist. And that is truly, truly, truly our niche. And interpreting the research, bringing it back, maybe not doing the research, but bringing it back and saying, here's what this means to us. This is how we can use it. This is how it affects physical therapy or affects massage therapy or whatever. So that educational piece that Chris was talking about becomes value added, drives membership, and really reaches out to meet a need that it's just not there. Brenda, I know you know what I'm talking about with this, particularly in massage therapy.
Yeah.
So I can't figure out how to raise my hand. So I'm just going to jump right in. Do not duplicate what other associations are doing, because that's if you're going to do podcasts or whatever, talk about everything that just happened in the conference to bring that to the general public, and focus on what this association is doing. There's physical therapy associations, massage associations to cover the basics of stuff. Talk about this organization only, because you're just going to get into it. Just don't. I can't.
Yeah, thank you, Julie. I think that's very wise for sure. Okay, go ahead. So we're starting to get close to our wrap up time. So so Brenda and then Chris, and then we're going to talk about where do we go from here. Okay.
I agree with what Julie said. And Julie, I think you can get it. I'm on my iPad. There's a little ... that says more. It's under there that I can raise my hand. At any rate, in regards to what you had said, I think that goes to kind of what Brian was saying too. If we bring topics forward that would show how each, I'll say department, whether it be physical therapy, neurologically, what a topic might affect each of us, and then bring that collaboration to the table. So not just a class on stretching, but how does stretching actually affect each of our respective, we'll say, system, and do it that way so that it is open for everyone, because I don't want to have it where, okay, so stretching just falls under the physical therapy end. Well, we've done that before. That's what other organizations are for. That's not what this is for.
Yeah, thank you, Brenda. Chris.
Thank you. Yeah, I totally agree with what was previously said. It should not be relegated. That is profession specific. The reason why I mentioned stretching is I have students that come from all disciplines. I have chiropractors in my class, so I cannot speak just physiotherapy talk. I speak to untrained people. I have retired people that are 70 and looking for a new career. So I'm teaching a large across so many ages, from high school graduates to retirees. They have no background in physical therapy, so I don't speak that. So what is common is, as one example, there's many examples, assisted stretching, not self-stretching. I'm saying as a manual therapy, assisted stretching, which you can call manual therapy if you apply it as such, can be discussed as a relevant topic to every single profession, because just about all of us use it at some point to do something in manual therapy. So that's why I mentioned that. And if you can find other topics, I'm open to all of it, because I do other things besides that, obviously, but that's what I teach. So I just know there's a real big interest in that. And there's controversy, there's confusion about it. And that's kind of my, little specialty, and others have other specialties we can discuss that we all use. And I love the nomenclature discussion we had at the conference. Are we doing the same thing when we mobilize, when we manipulate, and one profession calls it this and one profession calls it that? I love what ICMT is doing, is trying to get is what are we really doing as almost a generic description, rather than it's this technique. It could be that it all overlaps. And I think that makes us unique, and it makes it unified and universal, and our discussion is not relegated to one profession. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Chris. And I do think, stretching is used in every kind of flavor of manual therapy. And I think there's good potential there. I also want to just acknowledge that, Paul has, been putting forth some work he has done as also a way to kind of help to, sustain the conversation across the different professions around a particular, approach. So I do think, I think there is opportunities here to build programming that first would begin perhaps talking about just a nomenclature and just saying, okay, within this form of stretching, these are really the descriptive terms that we should be focusing on in our language, instead of saying this person's model, that person's model, and all these other factors that might occur. So with that, we need to talk about and focus on now, when do we get back together? What is going to be our next steps? We have talked about potentially having some type of monthly activity in order to get things moving. That clearly is going to have to happen with those that are interested in helping out with the white papers and publications. But I think there's a number of people who are part of ICMT who were not able to make it this morning. So when should we get back together? What should be our initial focus as to our next steps? G, do you have a comment, or you're just yes, very good. Okay. Yeah. All right. Thank you, Ben. All right. So when would you all like to continue fleshing out things? We will get communication to people from emails that we get. We'll try to hone in on where personnel is focusing on to, focus what our next steps are in what particular area. Obviously, looking at a nonprofit and associated, factors along with that is going to be really important over the next several months. membership committee is really going to have to also go hand in hand with that, because as we create the entity, we got to know, how people can get involved and so forth. So, Linda, I see you have a hand up.
Yeah, okay, you can hear me.
Yes.
If I'm interested in the papers, I'd like to jump right into that. And so if there's a group of people that are going to work on that, I'd be interested in getting going on that discussion. What papers, who's going to do what.
So Linda, you send your email to G, and I can say that within the next 7 to 10 days, those that are that have identified that as their interest, you'll be getting an email back to me with some specific timelines for that. Okay.
Okay. And then we would just start getting together, doesn't have to be the whole group.
That's right. Yeah. We have to become quite independent in our work within these various communities. Yeah.
Yeah, I lost my hand. There it is, right there, my hand. I think the first step from this core group, we're the acorn here. All right. Once G knows where we're at, and so Julie, bless your heart, you know how much I love you. the social media and your expertise in being there and done that before. And maybe as soon as G gets an idea of 2-3 people, that's all you need for a collaboration. Those two can then be joined, and start their individual discussions. Chris, I like what you talked about, for example. I think there's enough core right here that we can start work on all 4 of these areas. It's just a matter of us stepping up, getting our information to G, where our primary interest is at, and then those connections. We can do that while we're small, right? This can happen in this core development, and go. Sometimes you just have to do it, even if you don't quite know what you're doing. That's how we got into Gather Town.
Okay.
I wonder if we should also, as this core group, both those are on the call here today, and then people like David who couldn't make it, should we be coming up with some sort of fee that we're all willing to provide to kind of get things off the ground? And then if there are, I think, Brian, you were saying institutionally that you may have some connection there that might be able to get it started as a nonprofit, that we could then really, have something to work with?
Yeah, I think definitely, everybody think on that level. Obviously, the, financial resources is just a requirement of modern living. Although it is amazing how much can be done just with good intention and time. And so don't want to discredit on either side. I mean, basically the conference was all done by, good intention and time, and a little institutional resource. So I will take it on in regards to getting legal support and advice within the university to help with the setting up of the nonprofit. Hopefully we will get all positive feedback along that line. My hope is that within this group, we can have people identify where within this overall layout, where your specific interests are, and we can get you starting to work that route. I think it would be great if we could put together some programming this fall, just once again, to keep us out there, to get more people excited about what we're doing, and get greater understanding. We are going to be at the FASTA Research Congress. We certainly will be, letting everybody know within that venue about who we are and what we're doing and how to get involved. in a very collaborative way.
30 seconds.
So that's, I think, will be our next step. Are there any? So with that, I think,
Bye-bye.
yeah, thank you all for joining us today. And we let us know what you want to do, and we will be back in touch with you.
Thank you so
1
much.
month.
Okay, thank you all.
See you later. Good weekend.